Hello and welcome back to Pandemic Playground with Dave. So today we have another experiment for you guys, and that is actually going to be riding in style. Kind of. Alright, so today we have a bit of a silly experiment, and that is going to be flying around and driving around with a different type of cockpit system. Or not necessarily a cockpit system, but being able to hold on to something while driving a ship or even a rover. And the idea I had in mind is this: a ladder system. Because as we already know, in space engineers, we have cockpits, we have seats, all those kind of regular things to sit down on and ride and drive ships and rovers and things like that. So I went ahead and looked for other things that we can kind of place ourselves on and kind of grab on and ride with the rovers and ships. Because as you know, even if you do this with a remote control, for an example here, we are stationary on the ship itself and we can go forward and backwards, but we will slip off of it eventually, especially if we go too fast. It does happen once in a while, but it does stick on pretty well for the most part if you go slow. So I wanted to see if we could ride in style with a ladder system. So here with the ladder system, it's going to be a little bit of an awkward view, but even if you did first person view, you just look up and we could potentially fly this way. So I was hoping it works out well, so I created a few different types of vehicles to kind of give it a test. So with this one, this is my first prototype, which is basically a vector thrusting system in some ways. Two thrusters going upwards, and then you have the one in the middle that goes forward and sideways and backwards. That kind of 360 degrees on that. We have a programming block, we have a gyroscope, a remote control, and an antenna in the back. And the rest of it is small batteries, blocks, and a ladder system. Simple little thing here. So what I had in mind of riding this with style is basically being able to remote control into it like we did before. So quick shortcut, Shift K if you're using mouse and keyboard. Hit control, and I am in the ship itself. So can you fly this guy without any issues? For the most part, yes. As you see here, I'm going forward, I'm going sideways, it's the other sideways, up and down eventually. So it does kind of work, and you do fly in style, or different style at least, so you're not sitting down. And again, there's a bit of an awkward angle because when you're on the ladder, you're actually trying to look upwards, or onto the ladder you want to look vertical. So putting it horizontal like this, it does make a little bit of an awkward angle, but I'm using some spectator cameras here. And if we drive it around, it looks perfectly fine, but the issue is that sometimes you fall off of the ladder. So as you see right there, if you wiggle too much or go too fast sometimes, initially it looks like you just lose your grip and you fall off of the ship or rover, whatever the case may be. So that's not very helpful in some ways, because then you get onto the point of free falling with your jetpack, or kind of cruising with the vehicle with your jetpack. But if you didn't have any jetpack on, then you're pretty much going to be not with the vehicle for the most part. So once again, the initial tests seem to work okay, but if we go too fast in certain directions, like just a quick wiggle or so, you pop right out of it. So that is the main issue we have here when we are playing around with ladders as a form of seating position, or whatever you can call that. Alright, so I took it to another level just in case maybe you need two ladders to kind of get this to work properly. So I did the same exact thing, extended it like a limo, and did two ladders in front instead. And I try to walk right in the middle of the two, if possible, right? And then do the same thing, remote into it, control it, and see if we can fly it. So it's again, it's a bit awkward because we're doing a little bit of a different rotation here. And then it flies perfectly fine. Going forward, left, right, backwards, and all that stuff. And you can also spin it this way. But again, you do fall off of it if you go too fast. I do find that this variation of it, the double ladder one, takes a little bit more than the single ladder one to kind of knock you out of it. I'm not sure if that's really the case, but I feel like that's just a case-by-case basis because I just fell right off of this one immediately. So what else can we do? So go along with vector thrusting. This is my other version of it. So ladders being vertical, which is pretty much the way to go. Or that's the kind of way it should have been. So why not make a ship that has vector thrust and the ladders with going vertical, so that we can see if this one works out a little bit better. But it's the same thing, actually. So double ladder system, vector thrust here. But when I go forward, I just come right off of it. I think we're going a little too fast because this one has 2 thrusters to go forward versus the other one which has 1. But I feel like if you go slow enough, it'll be perfectly fine. You'll stay on the ladder. But if you do a quick jolt, you come right off of it. So that didn't make a difference whether it's vertical or horizontal in terms of the ladder. So I said, screw all of the vector thrusting. Let's go traditional. So I put all the directional thrusters on a ship like this. It's the same exact kind of build. So this looks cool to drive it this way as you're looking up on the ladder. And if we remote into it, it flies pretty well. This way, I find it to work a little bit better than vector thrusting because it doesn't necessarily jolt you out of it. So as we see here, we can fly this guy pretty cool, or pretty well. So I'm going forward, backwards, or left and right, but you do eventually fall out of it, and I just did right here. I feel like this variation worked a little bit better, only because you know, it's not a crazy jolt when it comes to vector thrusting with the rotors, but it does work out pretty well. You stay on there quite better than the other ones, but I'm sure if you put like a large thruster going forward, it'll probably jolt you right off of it pretty quickly too. But as you see here with the menu on, I can go 100 meters per second and not fall off. So that's a plus right there. But if I were to spin something like that, you just kind of lose your grip and you kind of fall right off, which kind of makes sense in a lot of ways, because if you spin that quickly sometimes, even in real life, I'm sure you would probably fall off too if you're not holding on tight enough or whatever the case may be. So that variation worked okay. I did a vertical variation as well, same design, except the ladder is upwards. If we connect into this, it's the same thing. You can fly this guy pretty well without coming off of it, except when you do these kind of quick jolty motions. So here's going forward, stopping, going left, right. It's perfectly fine. It's not too quick because we don't have too much thrusters on here. But again, if we did like a quick forward thrust and then a possible quick spin, you come right off of it. So that's where it gets a little dicey in that sense. Alright, so why stop there? Of course, what we can also do is see if it works on rovers, right? So 2 variations here. You have the 1 ladder variation versus the 2 ladder variation. And these guys, honestly, I feel like it kind of works if you can get these guys to move forward slow enough. So by default settings on the wheels, that will jolt you right off the ladder immediately, as you see here. So that is an unfortunate piece to it. But if you go into the wheel settings, and let's just say the power to be, I don't know, 1%. I already have it at 10%. That wasn't even the default, to be honest, and it still knocked me right out of it. But if we did 1%, it should work a little bit better. And let's see how it goes. So yeah, 1%, perfectly fine. It works good. And I'm sure we can get 100 meters per second eventually with the amount of power. But once we turn, once it's too sharp, we come right off the vehicle itself. So that's where it doesn't really work out too well. It does work a little better on ships, apparently. But on a rover itself, not so much. So again, we can try the 2 ladder variation of it. We can just get right into it, and I'm just gonna play around with the wheels a little bit. So we're gonna do again like 1%, and can we change the steering angle to be maybe 1%? So that's a little bit smaller angle. So this should be able to do it in terms of going forward and then turning left and right. Yeah, that's a very terrible angle of a turn. I might hit this one. Nope. So if you can't do it the slow way, you're gonna be able to hang tight on the ladder. But if you stop immediately like that, you just come right off. Again, it's that jolting or quick stop or quick turn is what's gonna knock you off that ladder. Right, so another variation I thought of, maybe we could block it so that we can not fall off the ladder. So I had to do something like this because the only way to kind of block yourself is using a hinge, a rotor, a piston, whatever the case may be, because you can't build on top of the ladder where you see the red box here. So you can only build above that. So it's actually significant. It's a lot of blocks upwards. So it's about 6 blocks, 5 blocks upwards. So that's a lot of blocks to give you that much space. But the way I placed this one here, which is only about 2 blocks high with these armor plates, it's not going to let me in because it's the ladder area is blocked. So I'm not sure. I mean, it looks like you can fit right into it, no problem. Right, so but for whatever reason, it says it's being blocked. So that kind of doesn't really work out too well. But if I jump into it, it's again not gonna let me into it. So let's just change the hinge really quickly, reverse it, and that should give me just enough space to get in. And I'm in. All right, perfect. Then we remote into it, reverse the hinge, and I'm in there, and it's kind of blocking it. It's still a lot of space, obviously, as you see there. But when we're flying this guy, and we can do this the cool way, it works out almost, it's the same thing. Everything moves perfectly fine forward, backwards, sideways. But again, that quick jolt, as you see here, I was about to do, I was going to do some kind of a roll, but that didn't work out too well. So that became more of a sunshade than actual piece to block us. So that was a bit of a fail there. Okay, so we got to keep going, keep trying new things. So the next thing I did was to create these things here. And why not try with a large grid ladder instead of a small grid ladder? So these 2 things here, one's just vertical, one's horizontal ladders that I built very similar. This uses 1 large advanced rotor or rotor. I don't know why I use advanced rotor. And then it's connected to a small head so that you have an antenna, a remote control, and a small gyroscope. So those things just keeps it small instead of making it too big. A lot of batteries, and added all the types of thrusters in different directions. So this is not vector thrusted. Right, so getting into this one, same thing, remote in. This thing flies a little bit faster than the rest of them, but seems to be that the large grid ladder holds a little bit better. So if we go forward, as you see here, no issues. Left, right, same thing, no issues. Although I'm saying it opposite of what I'm doing. Up, down, a little slow, but it's no issues. So we could fly pretty fast with this guy and not have issues. Can we make the turn? A little bit better than the small grid version of it, as you saw there. So I was able to spin it quite significantly for a little bit longer. Not too much longer, but it kind of seems to be working out pretty well in that case. But if we spin it ever so slightly like so, you should not have any problems. But if you go like swing this way fast, then yeah, you're gonna fall right off of it. So I don't know, to me it seemed like the large grid one held a little bit better, but not by too much. So if you did the same thing with the horizontal version of it, it's obviously just the same exact thing. It just looks cool in terms of viewpoint here. If you're looking at from outside view, it's a bit odd, but this one works out pretty well too. No big issues. and we could easily do maybe even a roll or barrel roll. But yeah, as you saw there, I fall kind of right off of it if I spin it too much. Can you fall off of this thing if you hang upside down? That's another quick question I actually don't know of. So if we're upside down, nope, you don't kind of fall. You don't fall off of it, so that's a good thing. Yeah, we're upside down and we're not gonna fall off it. Oop. That was unplanned. But again, it kind of works out. The large grid version of it, it feels like it holds a little bit better, but that just might be a random feeling of it. It's not really scientific, just by feel. So lastly, we decided to just forgo all small grid. We're gonna go all large grid, and we have 2 ladder system here. And this is what happens when you build a 2 ladder system as a ship in a way. It becomes ginormous because you had to put all the different directions of thrusters, you had to put an antenna with the remote control, and then you have the gyroscope and a battery. So this thing is huge. But this is the 2 ladder system. If we climb back to the middle, remote into this guy, and fly it, it seems to be working okay for the most part. You see here I'm flying forward, going up, we can go sideways, and it's left and right, and it's really slow, so that's probably why I'm able to do that. But you see here I'm swinging forward or pitching it up and down, and I'm not falling off of it. So that is a difference there in some ways. I'm doing it pretty fast too, but not as fast, and it seems to be holding pretty well. And that may only be because, oop, did not expect to crash into something. But anyways, that may be because of the gyroscope here, where I set it to be a lot slower and it hit 10%. Because at 100%, the moment I move left and right, up and down with the gyroscope, we come right off of the ladder. So I don't know, it seems like this one just kind of works out a little bit better in terms of large grid ladders. But let me do that a quick test also. So let's just grab one of the original ones here, and let's just go into controls. We're gonna do the gyroscope. Maybe we could do the same thing, 10% here. But as you see here, 10% is a little too slow to really do anything. So let's just see if we do maybe a little bit more than that. Let's just say 0.2, 20%. Can we spin this guy a little bit faster? Nope. So we want to be able to control it at the same time. Otherwise, it's just going to be pointless. And when I say control it, I mean to kind of be able to move around a little bit too. So 50%, we can kind of roll a little bit more, but it's kind of slow. But if we go forward and then swing this way, so we can't swing fast, and well, you still kind of fall off of it. So that's their issue there. So I don't know. I mean, we got to play around with it to kind of say like where the gyroscope is perfect. But I feel like the large grid version, if I didn't break it, it was holding me on the ladder a lot longer than the other ones that we had in place. And again, that just might be because I got the gyroscope at the right percentage so that it doesn't jolt me right off the ship. But why stop there, right? We have to go find other things where we don't necessarily sit down and put it on a ship or a rover. So what did I find? That's at least for a small grid, is a cryo chamber. So I've never tried this before until today, but if you jumped into a cryo chamber, when you're inside a cryo chamber, as you see here, you're standing up, kind of laying back, reclined just a bit. So I was hoping we could probably drive a ship or rover with this kind of variation of it. But the biggest problem here actually is that you cannot actually remote control into anything while you're in the cryo chamber, which kind of makes sense because you're supposed to be sleeping in cryostasis, I think they call it. So why would you be able to kind of remote into anything? We can still go into the terminal and control stuff if we wanted to, but unfortunately we can't actually hit control to make this thing work. We could probably plot out the remote control to do autopilot, maybe, and then jump into cryo chamber, then we could possibly go somewhere. Is there anything else we can try? What if we did... no, because if you do remote control from the outside, you can't get inside it anyways. As you see here, we can just fly away this way. But if we can find a way to press F again, but because if you press F again, you exit, it doesn't work out that way. So that's unfortunate. So I was hoping that worked out, but it didn't. So same thing with the rover. Once you're inside the cryo chamber, you can't remote into it. Can't remote to anything, to be honest. You can't remote to any other ships that we have here to drive it around. I mean, other options that we can think of: small grid, nothing else that I can think of really works. Large grid, I feel like a toilet might work fine, so you can always give the toilet seat a try. I'm pretty sure you can remote into it if you actually had this in your ship. So let's see here. Where is my... I still hear it staticking in the end here. So if we put the seat here, like so, we can sit into it, and that's similar to a seat. So that's why I didn't really care to do it. But I'm pretty sure you can kind of control stuff. Actually, no, you cannot remote control, or because my stuff is broken. Oh no, yes you can. It's because my stuff... Oh, I'm backwards. But the toilet seat works out pretty fine, so you can easily sit in the toilet seat to remote control into a ship, and you won't fall off of it no matter what you do to it. But again, it's the same as sitting down, so that's not fun. What is the point of that? But what if we tried... I know there's not a toilet seat, which is this one here, which is pretty much the same exact thing. It's a sitting position, but it's enclosed. So if we jumped into here, as you see, if we can remote control into it, then we can fly perfectly. Yes, we can. So you can have a nice little drone for your ships if you need to. And of course you're not going to fall off of it. But is there anything else we can use other than a ladder to make it look a little different than seating? I don't think there is anything else, but if you do know of anything else, feel free to leave a comment down below. Alright, so that was a random silly experiment just to see if we can ride in style with the ladders on a rover and on a ship. Answer is yes, but you have to do it really, really precise and slowly. But of course, if you did enjoy this episode, hit that thumbs up, like the video. If you haven't done so yet, consider hitting that subscribe button and also that notification bell. Feel free to drop a comment down below. And of course, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.